So thank you very much, Erki, and thanks to Ars Electronica for this invitation. I am honored to give this short, quick talk on the occasion of such a deserved prize. Of course, I can't go through so many works in such a short time, but let me share what I just discovered. I would like to insist on few beginnings to brush a less known profile of Geoffrey Shaw as a pioneer. When you look at Google French, you have the choice for the name of Geoffrey Shaw. You have a American baseball player. You have a Breton language writer. You have also an Australian artist. So let's take the Australian artist, who is also, we could say, British, Dutch, German, and Hong Kongish, if this is a correct word. Meaning he is working all over the world. In anticipating researches which are significant for us now in the field of media arts, Geoffrey Shaw was first in deep symbiosis with the emergent thought and the art of his time, against conventional academic approaches, keeping away from the art market. He has always had a high sensitivity to the deep change in our society and in our behaviors, but also a very strong curiosity toward the next technologies which will be able to express such transformations. Resolutely on the side of experiment, I would say that Geoffrey Shaw is a constant pioneer. His first works are definitely part of the context of the 60s. I take the year 66, for instance, when he did his first works. 1966 is the year of an exhibition of works of so-called minimal art, primary structures in New York. It is also the year of another important exhibition, which was 9 evenings, theater and engineering, which was organized by members of a well-known group called Experiment in Art and Technology, which was founded in 67, but the exhibition was in 66. Geoffrey Shaw could not see this exhibition. This very year, 66, freshly arrived in London, escaping from a very traditional painting course in Milano. He attended the Destruction in Art Symposium, DIAS, which brought together all kinds of international artists, poets, and scientists, and also representative of the counter-cultural underground. He was 20 years old, and this was certainly a shock. Especially John Latham was part of this event, an artist who was doing radical performances, such as setting fire to a pile of books, or to piles of books, towers of books, that he called the Laws of England. John Latham was also Geoffrey Shaw's professor at St. Martin's School of Art, and he was divulgating some challenging concepts about time, such as the idea of a flat time and others. So, going on a little about the context, Geoffrey Shaw was stimulated by the development of happenings, of course, at that time, performance art, and also the Fluxus events. But overall, he was very much concerned with cinema, as he reminded this yesterday night. And he introduced in his work, from the beginning, this determinant parameter of time. This is very important. So more than destruction, it is transformation which characterizes his art approach. It is the process, be it the process of materializing an image or the process of producing, experiencing a work. I just discovered, no, not me. Oh, how do I do? Oh, it begins. Voilà. So I just discovered his homage to Ronald Bladen done in 1971 in Arnhem, which is a quite ironical comment on minimal art, of which Ronald Bladen was kind of father figure. It's a huge, as you see, a huge inflatable structure, the exact size replica of Bladen's sculpture, The Wedge. And this sculpture is handed over to the people who engage in the sculpture in all kinds of transformations. They roll it, they climb on it, producing an infinity of new forms. So nothing is stable, fixed anymore, and certainly not a minimal sculpture, which, as you might guess, was not the favorite kind of art of Geoffrey Chaux. As Erkki recalled, adopting the principle of inflatable structure, Chaux created, on the opposite of minimal art, a soft, responsive architecture. Those are his words. They were malleable, mobile, ephemeral, and mainly receptive to all kinds of intermediate states. So I skip the collaboration between artists from different disciplines, as well as with scientists and engineers, which were increasing in the mid-60s. The ERG, Event Structure Research Group, was not only conceiving architecture as spatially fluid, but also making it practicable. So pyramids, pavilions, and domes became playful space for the public and to produce all kinds of surprising sensations and all kinds of challenging, usual perception. So art was a multisensory experience. Right from the start, Geoffrey Chaux addressed a broad audience. I think this is quite important, not merely the audience of the art spaces, the galleries, museums, etc. So he was constantly seeking out new contexts for his works, such as streets, canals, places, or buildings' facades. So art, the idea was at that time that art should not be a separate activity. Geoffrey Chaux is definitely, I will say, also a pioneer in public art. So was he one of the provocateurs of the time, the Provo, this anarchist anti-establishment movement, which developed in Netherlands during the second half of the 60s? His provocative and humoristic works might let think so. For instance, blocking the street with an inflatable cushion, 69, hiding Swansea University building with a smoke screen, and look how Jeffrey Shaw is happy to have done that, or producing a waterquake in 1970. Of course, this would not be possible in our days of terroristic panic. I would like to underline now a certain witty or, let's say, ironical approach that we don't know so much, not enough, I think, about Jeffrey. I discovered also, preparing this and looking at his fabulous database, that in '67, Shaw was doing book plumbings with John Latham. You can ask him details about that after. And also that he has invented a cinematic air pollution device. He did also some pop art object, like the pink car Scottish Sorrows in '71, which was emitting music and projecting images onto Edinburgh's buildings and at night. Or is this pink flying pig, '76, which went crashing at the end of a Pink Floyd performance. The pig releases the aroma of freshly fried bacon. So this is quite disgusting, but it suggests how much Jeffrey Shaw was interested in stimulating all the senses. So better to look at this beautiful day sky projected onto an inflated cloud at night. One work at this time, is certainly not the precursor of immersion. It's Water Walk in '69, a 3-meter high tetrahedron in which you zip yourself. And from the photo, it seems quite well waterproofed, but immersion was a kind of threatening. And I just wonder how people could breathe. And look at, I like this one because look at the fisherman who is ready to get a big catch. But as Shaw said yesterday, among all media, the cinema interested him first, and especially the projection apparatus. So he began his expanded cinema environment, that's how he called them, as early as '66 with the film. So expanded in space, it means multiple screens, environmental projection, like the series of panoramas Place, or the projection dome Eve, and more recently the high cylinder AV. Expanded also through attacking the standard movie screen in its dimension as well as in its nature. By inflating balloons in it, and it was not only for children, but people have inflated a lot in Jeffrey Shaw's piece. Inflating balloon, the screen becomes a volume, or it is a volume when the screen is made of smoke or of jelly. And with it, the projected image gets the third dimension that it misses. But at this very moment, it becomes fragile, distorted, and ephemeral. So to give body to the image, to materialize it, was an issue of corpo cinema in '67. It was a transparent inflated dome, which I just read in the guide, which was including 5 events inside. I don't resist to read you the 5 events. Smoke spawn, fluidomatics, jelly quake, foam swell, and splatter plode. I think what a program of performance, of possible interferences between materials and light, the light of the projection, which is a condition to the forming of an image. Erkki has shown movie, and I think there is another interpretation of giving bodies to the image, a more literal one, as some participants, so I don't have the same slide as him, because I found more funny to show how people were offering their body to the screen as a screen, and which is a sign of the time, this time of great liberation. People were undressing. Let me share with you another discovery, for me. And for me, it is a scoop. In 1970, Jeffrey Shaw did a series of televents which were very early video or TV performances. There were short sequences to be shown between programs at the VPRO, which was the Dutch radio and television broadcast. What a surprise for me to see that among the various sections staged in a TV set previously emptied of its electronic, Shaw had filled it with fishes. You might know TV Fish by Nam June Paik, but Nam June Paik did this in 1975, 5 years later. So this is a proof for me that Jeffrey Shaw is definitely a precursor in more than one way and one field. So I can stop here. Yes, I have a lot to say, but 75 is a turning point. It's a viewpoint. But my time is out, and I still have 40 years of an intense production I would like to discuss. So I suppose I don't have any more minutes. After Jeffrey's talk, there might be questions. I just want to say one word, kind of conclusion. I don't talk at all about the huge digital approach. You find this in the book also. So no, I just want to conclude by thanking very much Jeffrey for this precious data jewel of your works. And this is a great starting point for the title of an archive that we are doing with Jeffrey Shaw now. This is my conclusion announcement. Thank you.